Hello, all of you lovely people on the internet. My name is Dahlia. Welcome to another segment on Novel Idea. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a review of the classic book Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. I figured it was high time for me to read it. I did. I am here to give you my thoughts on the book. So Rebecca follows the unnamed narrator. She's a young, naive, quite fanciful and imaginative young woman. She likes to draw, apparently. We learn about her inclination for sketching throughout the novel. And in the beginning of the book, she works for this older woman sort of as a assistant of sorts back in the day. And at their stay in a hotel in Monte Carlo, she essentially, through the social networking of this older woman who is kind of like a socialite type of lady, meets Maxime de Winter, who is the owner of the Manderley estate. After a couple of interactions with Max de Winter, he proposes to her, and even though they've only known each other for less than a couple of days and maybe have had a handful of interactions, she says yes, of course, why wouldn't she? And they move off to the Manderley estate. The second that she gets there, she is introduced to all of the maids and grounds people that work for Mr. de Winter, and they keep the estate running. She definitely feels a sense of inferiority, of inadequacy, might one say, because this is a very new world to her, and she really does not know how to fake it till you make it. Maybe that's the right words. There is a head maid. I don't know if that's the right word, but let's just use it. There's a head maid called Mrs. Danvers, and she gives her a particularly hard time because she was very fond and close with the previous Mrs. de Winter, namely Rebecca. The book kind of begins when they arrive at Manderley, and really, this young woman has basically nothing to do because Max de Winter, once they get there, is like, peace, I'm doing my stuff. And she just like walks around and is nervous for the next, people or group of people that she has to entertain that's going to want to meet her and sort of size her up and judge her and see if she compares to the previous Mrs. de Winter. And she feels a lot of anxiety, tension and stress, and she's kind of like walking on eggshells. But really, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's like nothing tangible or substantial for her to focus on and do with her time. But that's sort of like my own interpretation of the novel, so I want to stick to the actual plot itself for a little bit. And essentially we follow her as she kind of navigates this very unknown world as a domestic woman in charge of this large estate that she really does not know how to manage. And Max is a bona fide piece of shit and does not really help her in any way, shape, or form to like adjust to this new lifestyle. Rebecca is known to be one of the great romance suspense novels of our time. So why is that? What makes it the great gothic romance suspense? And I'm very hesitant to use the word romance because really there is not a lick of romance in this entire fucking book. Besides that, the psychological state that the narrator is constantly having to endure, sense of tension and unease, comes from the previous Mrs. de Winter, and the fact that she kind of has to fill in her shoes, so to speak, and feels a sense of, again, inadequacy in her ability to do so. Everyone seems to have loved Rebecca. She's someone without flaw, and she was, just made for the position, whereas this narrator is very young and naive and inexperienced, and she really feels that inadequacy like viscerally within her. And so there's that psychological kind of unease that we kind of experience vicariously through the narrator. There's also a sense of mystery because we don't know during the novel what exactly happened to the previous Mrs. de Winter. So They say that she drowned in like a sailing accident of some sort, but of course we know as the reader that that is not the case, and there's obviously more to the story. Surely there are very obvious indicators of this. I think it's a bit on the nose, to be honest. Nothing really shocked me, and when the big plot twist happened, I wasn't shocked. They've been done before, let's just say that. There is a very definite and real way in which the setting is creepy. Like, there's this whole west wing of the estate that she's not allowed to go to, and that's primarily because I think the previous Mrs. De Winter, Rebecca, like mostly stayed there or something like that. And also the psychological tension and unease that the narrator feels, but she does become effectively obsessed with Rebecca, and she is not the only character to do so. Like, if anyone recalls that rant that Mrs. Danvers goes on, she is like obsessed to, she's like fetishistic over Rebecca, and I think like that, what I really was like eating that scene up, where Mrs. Danvers is going on this effectively like a diatribe of some sort about how she would never live up to the previous Mrs. De Winter, you know, that her touching her things was some sort of a like an offense or a crime. Clearly there is some weird thing going on with Mrs. Danvers. And I shouldn't even say weird. Let's just be honest. She had a big crush, a very big crush on Rebecca. One of the intriguing points of the novel, I thought, was like the whole Mrs. Danvers bit and just this obsession that she had with Rebecca. And I'm just gonna spoil it. If you haven't read it, like, you won't be surprised by the turn of events. It's not surprising. Like, it's not. Spoiler alert. So Max is the perpetrator. He murdered Mrs. De Winter. And the crazy part about the book, in my opinion, is the narrator's reaction to her husband being a murderer. Okay? And this is what is so whack about these novels, like these romantic gothic novels. Anyone in their right mind would be like, I am so out of here. Our lovely narrator is like stoked. She's so relieved that she has learned this information, that Max confessed to her and said that he murdered his ex-wife. They had a loveless marriage, kind of a marriage that was really for presentation purposes. We learn that from Max De Winter, although he is like off kilter. The narrator's reaction, I want to stress this, to the murder, right? She experiences relief to learn that her husband is a murderer. She actually is relieved that her husband killed his previous wife. She goes on about the fact that she is so happy that Max is now finally hers, and, you know, this whole Rebecca issue can be put to bed because she learns that he never loved her and he actually could not stand her, so much so that he decided to kill her. Never mind that he killed this woman. He never loved her, and that for her is like all she wants to know. I mean, anyone now, I think, reading this, I hope, would have a reaction similar to mine. Her sense of reality is essentially warped. I think it really is a testament to the times. It's more important to feel as though you're like the object of someone's desire. She feels so undervalued as a person and in her role, and to learn that he didn't actually love her is so relieving to her, that she's able to somehow overlook the fact that this man murdered her. Once that plot point was revealed, that she was somehow okay with this, it made me feel sad for her, and also just like, what the fuck? Let me just say, this guy is an absolute trash bag throughout the entire novel. Like, he's just a whiny, annoying, when he doesn't get his own way, like, freaks out. The idea that this is somehow a romance book, sad, because there is no romance. There's no romance to speak of in the novel. He treats her like a child. petting her like a dog. There's just no romance. It is an entertaining book. It's definitely entertaining. And I think, like, if I could read more about Mrs. Danvers, I'd be happy to, because I'm curious about the relationship that happened between her and Rebecca, and I feel like there was some stuff there. So I'm curious to read about that. But I did like it. I did overall, like, have a decent reading experience with it. And I can sort of see why it is the classic tale that it is. I enjoyed it. That's my review of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Take it or leave it. I think it would be very interesting and fun to do kind of like a read along with some of the classic novels that I've been really wanting to get to. I'm gonna mention a couple classics that I really want to get to, and if they are of intrigue, maybe I'll do a read along type thing. And if anyone is interested, you can comment below and kind of let me know which book would be of interest for me to do this read along with. So a couple books that I want to get to. One would be Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. If that's of interest to do a read along for that, let me know. Maybe we can discuss in the comments. Death Comes for the Archbishop by Willa Cather. I am a big Willa Cather fan. I loved My Antonia. I like Oh Pioneers. I'm just a big Willa Cather fan, so I would love to read more of her books. And that one is a very famous classic novel, so if that's of interest, again, let me know. The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, super classic. If anyone's interested in doing a read-along for that, I would love to do that. And the last book I'm going to suggest for a read-along is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Nora Zeal Hurston. If that one would be of interest, let me know. We can kind of chat about the books in the comments. And if you have any suggestions for books that you would recommend for a read-along type of series, let me know, because I would, again, be very interested in doing something like that. That is my video review of Rebecca. So I'm sorry if it's like maybe not the greatest review ever, but it's just kind of my food for thought about the book and my experience, which was fine. That's Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier.